I was the last one to leave the cemetery, rain needling my collar, the kind that pretends to be mist until you realize your bones are cold. And when I turned onto David's street, I saw a little girl on the porch, in a black dress, shivering. Hair stuck to her cheeks, a teddy bear dangling by one ear, while Serena held a bucket, like she'd just scrubbed the patio, and David's half-brother Colin smoked and smirked, and in 3 heartbeats, my day became a line I couldn't step back from. Serena said flat, like a weather report. Washing bad luck off, and the girl flinched, like the words themselves stung, and I heard my own voice come out small and steady, not the one I use in boardrooms. Hey kiddo, you cold. You know what I mean. There's a moment when anger settles low, not loud, just final. That was mine. I put my coat around her and picked up the bear from the wet concrete. Serena laughed like cruelty was sophistication. Colin flicked ash toward the steps. Family business, Logan, take a drive. And I said the sentence that still echoes when the house is quiet. She's coming with me, then I walk to the car because sometimes you stop asking permission and you just do the human thing. The heat made her cough. She held the bear like a life vest. Her voice was sandpaper when she said her name, Maya. And halfway to my building, she asked it barely a breath. Are you gonna leave me too? And I gripped the wheel so tight my fingers hurt. No, I said, and meant it with every mile. Mr. Doyle at the desk watched us pass. The elevator hummed like a lullaby in the kitchen. I warmed chicken soup and found a sweatshirt that swallowed her to the knees. She ate 3 careful spoonfuls, then pushed the bowl away like enjoying something was dangerous. You can eat here, I said. You can breathe here, and she blinked. Like that was new information. Yeah, that happened. I emailed Theo Hart, my lawyer who smiles once a year if that, and made a list the way I always do when the stakes are high and the ground feels unstable. Guardianship school therapist, copies of everything. And then Maya patted back with the bear frowning. He's broken, she said, pointing to a split seam on the ear. We sat under the pendant light, and she pressed in the stuffing and pulled out a micro SD card no bigger than her thumbnail, and my neck prickled because sometimes the universe stops whispering and speaks up. We slid it into the laptop, one file date stamped a year earlier. David's voice came thin but clear. Colin, what is this you said? The cardiologist wanted me on it, but my heart pounds out of my chest when I take it. Serena, where did you get this? Then her whisper slippery and close. Let him drink more, he'll sign when he's weak. And Maya's breath fogged the screen as she said what we both knew. They hurt my dad, and I took her hand and gave the only answer that didn't feel like a lie. He left the truth where someone brave would find it. I made 3 backups, like a man building a raft, photographed file properties, wrote timestamps on a yellow pad, because ink steadies me, called Theo. 4 words, no drama. Don't move. I'm coming. The smear machine spun up fast, headline on a local blog like a slap. Tech millionaire snatches child for access to shares. A picture of Serena doing grief like theater, a freeze frame of me, looking like the kind of guy people love to hate. And I get it. We all think we're excellent lie detectors until the music swells and our bias claps. But facts are stubborn and fluorescent. Light loves them, so I took Maya to the downtown library. That's where we met Janelle. Glasses on a chain, the calm of someone who treats rules like armor for people without power. She ran the dates and turned the monitor. This stock transfer says March 14th, she pointed, but the hospital shows sedation March 13th through 15. He couldn't have held a pen, and she printed 2 copies, highlighted the mismatch, made a comparison sheet clean enough for any judge to breathe with slid crayons to Maya, and said, color as long as you want, and I could have hugged a librarian in public. We needed witnesses, truth with a pulse, so we knocked on Ms. Klein's door. Warm, cinnamon, harsh Windex curtains that looked like spring. And she twisted a dish towel and said, I watched him grab the kid's wrist, watched that woman pour a bucket over her head. I was scared to speak. I'm not proud of that, then. We found Red behind the grocery loading bay. Beanie forever faded, voice like gravel. They dragged her like a sack of mulch. I didn't move because he stared like I was already a ghost. I got nothing left to take. But I'll talk for the kid. We brought them to Theo. He listened without blinking, stacked the library pages with the voice memo and the bruise photos that still ring my ears, and said what needed saying. Emergency guardianship, now protective order, DA on poisoning and fraud. No speeches outside the court, because justice does its best work in shoes, not on TV. That night, the brick came through Ms. Klein's window. Keep quiet, scrawled on paper that shook in her hands. Red got jumped by cowards with boots and no names, smiled the wild smile so you won't cry. Still got my teeth, he said. And we photographed everything, logged, everything filed, witness tampering so fast. The clerk looked winded, and you could feel the other side realize we weren't blinking. A thread tugged at an older knot, too. David's wife's crash. I dug through old cloud folders and found a maintenance PDF that smelled like oil and negligence throttle-by-wire anomalies, flagged a week before the accident. I called Eli, my friend, who argues with spreadsheets for fun. If someone altered the control module, he said it wasn't a YouTube hobbyist. They had access and motive. We printed, labeled, filed. Family court isn't glamorous. Multnoma's walls are beige on purpose. The coffee tastes like it holds grudges. Our bailiff called the case Judge Granger's face was the kind that has seen every trick twice. Serena wore black and a delicate necklace that read like armor. Colin cleaned up to play responsible. Their attorney delivered the script. Grieving guardian, greedy tech guy assets. And turned just enough to feed the cameras. And Theo didn't take the bait. He lined up the facts like freight on a dock. 2 witnesses to abuse a recovered memo, suggesting deliberate poisoning to compel signatures, hospital logs, proving sedation during the alleged signing, a vehicle report hinting interference in a crash. And you could feel the oxygen shift. Miss Klein's hands shook so hard the bailiff brought water. She told it straight, no flourishes. I was a coward that day. That's the only grudge I have, and the room believed her. Red said, "Yes, ma'am," to the oath, and painted the porch in 6 sentences. Theo played the recording. David's fear filled the room. Serena's whisper pricked the skin. Let him drink more. And Colin snapped to his feet. Fake and Theo lifted a page with the quiet of a man who likes numbers more than volume. Forensic report, attached original device signature, consistent with the bear. Hospital timestamps are the hospitals, he slid. Janelle's highlight to the clerk, the truth didn't need to shout. Do you wish to make a statement? The judge asked Serena, and she tried that old trick. Culture as cover. It was discipline, and Judge Granger's voice was dry as winter. To be clear, you poured a bucket of water over a 7-year-old, outdoors in 42-degree weather on the day of a funeral, to discipline her, not a question, just a mirror. And Maya stood without looking at me, voice small and devastating. If they loved me, they wouldn't laugh when I cry. Then she sat and stared at her shoes like she'd broken a rule. And I learned something about courage measured in inches, not decibels. The gavel came down like a sunrise. Emergency guardianship to me, protective order. DA referrals on poisoning fraud, likely tampering. Not an ending. A solid first step where the floor stopped moving, and what follows on TV is confetti. But what follows in life is toner-smelling paper social worker calendars, quiet rooms where someone makes sure you mean what you say, and a house that needs to stop acting like a museum of bad nights. I called people who had no reason to show up other than they are who they are. Janelle brought kids' books and rugs that don't slide. Ms. Klein sewed bright curtains, red-built shelves from salvaged pine. Linda from the coffee shop fed us like hunger was a problem she was born to solve. Theo walked room to room with a clipboard, because hope still needs permits. We painted and argued about lamp placement, and cried when nobody was looking. And we screwed a small sign over the door that said Lantern House. And every time I see it, I stand a little taller. Weeks turned to months. The DA filed motions, stacked witnesses, held the car report tied to a shop. Colin visited before the crash. The broader case ended on a gray morning, with Theo handing me an envelope and saying, "It's done fraud, confirmed intimidation, confirmed tampering, traced sentences real." And that night, Maya slept through without waking for the first time since February, which is what victory actually looks like when cameras aren't around. One evening when snow sifted down like someone shaking sugar over the street, Maya handed me